All right, so get this. You guys sent in an actual public talk for this deep dive.
Oh, wow.
It's a recording of J. Krishnamurti speaking in Madras, India, back in 1986.
1986, okay.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's not our usual source material.
Not at all.
But
What?
trust me, this talk is packed with thought-provoking ideas that feel surprisingly relevant even now.
Yeah. You know, it's fascinating how Krishnamurti just tackles this huge question right from the start.
Oh, yeah.
What is creation?
Head on.
And he's not just talking about art or music,
Yeah.
He's going deeper, like exploring the very source of life itself.
And right away, he makes it clear that this isn't about blind faith or following some guru.
Yeah.
He even says, don't follow anybody,
Oh, wow.
and encourages his audience to question everything,
Everything.
even him.
Interesting.
It's almost like he's saying, think for yourself.
Right. It's like a challenge to really examine our beliefs, and he doesn't waste any time.
Yeah.
He dives right into a critique of organized religion, saying, throughout history, man has sought something beyond this little world. But he questions whether chasing heavenly rewards or clinging to dogma,
Oh, yeah.
really gets us any closer to understanding the true nature of existence.
That's a good point. I mean,
Yeah.
if our motivation for spirituality is just about getting something in return,
Right.
are we missing the whole point?
Well, yeah. And that leads into Krishnamurti's distinction between the brain and the mind.
I love this part.
Right.
Okay.
So he describes the brain as this incredible tool, almost like a supercomputer, capable of storing knowledge and analyzing information.
Yeah.
But he suggests the mind is something much vaster, something that can't be confined to the physical world.
So it's not just about what we know, but how we perceive and experience the world.
Exactly. And he hints that maybe the mind can communicate with the brain, but not the other way around.
Interesting.
It's like the brain is a tool the mind can use, but the mind itself is something far more mysterious and expansive.
It's a wild thought.
Right.
And he doesn't shy away from tackling big, future-focused ideas even back in 1986.
Right.
He was talking about computers and genetic engineering,
Yeah.
things we grapple with even more today.
Absolutely. What's striking is his warning that humans could become like machines,
Oh, yeah.
shaped by these technologies instead of our own inner understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost prophetic considering our current debates about AI and how it could influence our thoughts and actions.
It's like he saw this coming. It's like he saw the potential for these technologies to either liberate us or trap us.
Yeah, he even uses this powerful image of humans being encased,
Okay.
whether it's by cultural identities or rigid belief systems,
Yeah.
suggesting these labels can limit us.
And that leads perfectly into his comparison of invention versus creation,
Right.
which I think is super interesting.
So he points out that invention is always building on what we already know.
Okay.
Like improving a jet engine,
Yeah.
It's progress, but it's still bound by the laws of physics and our current understanding.
Creation, on the other hand, seems to be something entirely different for him.
Oh.
Not just building on existing knowledge, but tapping into something beyond human comprehension.
Yeah, he doesn't give us a neat definition of creation.
Right.
And I think that's intentional.
I think so, too.
He wants us to wrestle with the mystery of it, to consider that maybe it's something we can't fully grasp with our current ways of thinking.
Yeah, like look around.
It's like he's inviting us to experience the world with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
And see the creative force at play everywhere, not just in grand artistic achievements,
Right.
but in the very essence of life itself.
Okay, so now we're getting into the good stuff.
Oh, here we go.
He starts talking about meditation. And let me tell you,
Okay.
he throws a wrench into a lot of common ideas about what meditation is supposed to be.
He does. He calls out practices that are just about concentration or trying to force your thoughts to be quiet.
Yeah.
He even says some of these methods can become a form of self-deception. Like we're just avoiding the deeper questions we should be asking ourselves.
Okay, so what does he propose?
Right.
Because he does offer a glimpse of a different kind of meditation.
Yes.
Something he describes as effortless and without striving for a specific outcome.
Yeah, he talks about a mind that is absolutely silent with infinite space.
I love that.
He's pointing toward a state of pure awareness,
Yeah.
but he's careful not to give us a step-by-step guide to get there.
Right.
He emphasizes that this kind of meditation can't be forced or achieved through technique.
Okay.
It requires a willingness to let go of our preconceived notions
Yeah.
and approach it with deep humility.
And this brings us back to the core question he keeps circling around. What is life?
Yeah.
What's the essence of this force that animates all living things?
Right.
He's asking us to contemplate this not just on an intellectual level, but in our direct experience.
And this is where he starts to break down how desire arises from sensation and thought.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
So he uses the example of a clock. You see a clock. That's the sensation. Then your thoughts create an image of that clock in your mind.
Okay.
And from that image, desire is born, the desire to have the clock.
So it's like a chain reaction.
Exactly.
Sensation sparks thought, and thought gives birth to desire.
It's a cycle.
And this applies to way more than just clocks, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He's talking about the underlying mechanism that drives so much of our behavior, everything from the small choices we make each day to our deepest longings.
Exactly. And by understanding this mechanism, he suggests we can start to free ourselves from the grip of desire.
Oh,
not by suppressing it,
right.
but by seeing it clearly for what it is.
This is where I feel like things are going to get even deeper.
Oh, yeah.
How does this tie back into the idea of creation?
You're right. This is where Krishnamurti really pushes us to confront the mystery at the heart of existence.
Okay.
But before we dive into that...
Okay, so we've been through a lot with this talk. This whole brain versus mind thing.
You're right.
And the potential pitfalls of technology.
Yeah.
And even this like really intriguing take on meditation as pure awareness.
Definitely.
But the big question that keeps coming up for me is this whole nature of creation itself.
And what's so interesting is that Krishnamurti, he's asked directly, what is creation and what is life? But he doesn't give us a straightforward answer.
He really doesn't.
Like, he's teasing us a little,
Right.
Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I get the sense he's doing that on purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
Like he wants us to actually grapple with these questions ourselves, not just take someone else's word for it.
It's like he's nudging us to go on our own inner journey of discovery.
Totally. And he emphasizes that you just can't capture the origin of creation in words.
Right.
He calls it nameless and absolutely quiet.
Not something we can think our way into understanding, let alone force into existence through willpower.
It's like he's pointing to something beyond our typical thought processes.
Right.
A mystery that can only be approached through a different kind of awareness.
Yeah, maybe that stillness and spaciousness he talked about with meditation.
I think you're right. He keeps saying over and over, we can't understand creation from our current conditioned way of being.
Absolutely.
He even says this one line that really struck me.
What's that?
He says, if you have made a mess of your life, change it.
Wow.
Change it today, not tomorrow.
That's powerful.
It's like he's not messing around. He's not just talking about concepts.
No, he's calling for a real transformation in how we live our lives.
Yeah, a real call to action. And it makes you think, if we want to truly grasp this whole creation thing, we need to become creators ourselves.
Absolutely.
Not just in the sense of making things,
right,
but in the sense of transforming our very being, breaking free from the limitations of how we usually think and act.
I completely agree with you. So how does he guide us toward that transformation?
Yeah. Does he give us any clues about what this process looks like?
Well, he offers this really cryptic hint. He tells his audience, unless all that is prepared, all that is settled, you can't enter into this world, into the world of creation. And then he just abruptly ends the talk.
What?
Just says, it ends.
Wait, he just stops there.
He does.
That's kind of unexpected.
I know, right?
It's like he's leaving us hanging.
I think it's deliberate.
You do?
I really do. He's refusing to, tie everything up in a neat little bow.
Right.
Or give us a set of instructions,
Oh, yeah.
He just leaves us with this sense of mystery, this lingering question mark.
Yeah.
And I think that's brilliant. It forces us to confront the limits of our own understanding.
You know what? The more we talk about this talk, the more I realize it's not really a lecture. It's more like a guided meditation.
Oh, interesting.
Like he's using words to point us towards something that can't be explained with language.
I love that. And it makes me think about how much he emphasizes silence. He keeps coming back to quieting the mind, creating space for something new to emerge.
It's answers we're looking for aren't out there somewhere,
right,
but inside us.
Exactly, waiting to be discovered in the stillness.
Which reminds me of his concerns about technology.
Yeah.
That we could become so dependent on external things that we lose touch with that inner source of creativity and wisdom.
It's so true, and he was talking about this decades ago.
I know, it's crazy.
But it feels even more relevant today.
Totally.
Yeah.
So where does that leave us?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do with all these insights?
Right, all these questions he sparked.
Exactly.
I think that's the big question, and I think the answer is different for everyone.
Okay.
But if I had to offer one takeaway for our listeners, it would be this.
Okay. I'm listening.
Don't underestimate the power of silence. make time for stillness, for contemplation.
Yeah.
Question everything, even your most cherished beliefs.
Okay.
And above all, stay curious. Be open to the possibility that there's more to life than meets the eye.
I love that. I have to say this deep dive has left me with more questions than answers,
Me too.
but in a good way.
In really good way.
It's definitely made me want to explore Krishnamurti's work more.
Yeah, and speaking of exploring further,
Yes.
we'll include a link to the full transcript of this talk in the show notes
Awesome.
for anyone who wants to dive deeper.
Perfect. And for now, I'm really curious to see what unexpected rabbit holes we'll explore in our next deep dive.
Who knows what fascinating ideas are waiting for us out there.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Krishnamurti,
Yeah,
what really sticks with me is this whole idea of personal transformation.
absolutely.
It's like he doesn't want us to just understand his ideas,
Right.
in our heads.
Like intellectually.
Yeah, he wants us to embody them.
Yeah, live them out.
Exactly, to actually make them a part of our lives.
And what I find fascinating is that he doesn't give us a set of rules
No,
or a specific path to follow.
it's not a recipe.
Right. He encourages us to become our own guides,
I love that.
to explore and experiment and see what resonates with our own experience.
It's like he's saying the map is not the territory.
Exactly. And that makes me think about his critique of traditional religion.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like he's suggesting that just blindly following dogma
Mm-hmm.
or relying on external authorities can actually hold us back.
Like it can hinder our spiritual growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we need to develop our own internal compass, our
Yeah.
own sense of what's true and meaningful for us.
Exactly. And I think that's where his ideas about creation come in.
Yes, it's like we're not just passive observers in the universe.
Right.
We're active participants in this ongoing process of creation.
Yeah, he even says, if you have made a mess of your life, change it.
Yeah.
Change it today, not tomorrow.
Powerful stuff.
I know, it's a bold statement.
It is. It suggests that we actually have the power to shape our own reality.
To create a life that's aligned with what we truly value.
Exactly. He's challenging us to take responsibility for our lives
Mm-hmm.
and to actively create the world we want to live in.
And that feels super relevant now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We're living in a time of crazy change and uncertainty.
Yeah, it's easy to feel overwhelmed
Totally.
by how complex everything is. Like we're just tiny cogs in this giant machine.
That's a good way to put it.
But Krishnamurti reminds us that we're not powerless.
Right.
We have the ability to choose to act, to create.
And he suggests that creative power comes from stillness.
Yeah, from that infinite space he talks about with meditation.
So it's like when we can quiet our minds,
Mm-hmm.
we can tap into a source of wisdom and creativity that's always there.
It's always available to us.
That's a great point. So what would you say is the main takeaway from all of this for our listener?
For someone trying to navigate this crazy modern life,
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is don't be afraid to question, to
Mm.
explore, to challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
Cultivate that sense of curiosity
Oh, yeah.
and wonder. And make time for silence,
Yes.
for reflection, for connecting with that deeper part of yourself that Krishnamurti keeps pointing to.
That's beautifully said.
It's in that space of quiet contemplation that we can discover our own unique path
Our own way of creating a life that's truly meaningful.
and fulfilling.
Yeah.
And, if you found this deep dive intriguing,
Yeah.
we encourage you to explore Krishnamurti's work further.
Definitely.
You can find a link to the full transcript in the show notes.
Awesome.
It's really thought-provoking stuff.
It is.
And I think you'll find it both challenging and inspiring.
So until our next deep dive,
Yes,
keep exploring, keep questioning,
keep diving deep.
and we'll see you next time.